edition of the Viking Insider Live. Today, I'm sitting down with the new head girls basketball coach of Howell High School, Coach Scott Cleer. Coach Cleer, thank you for meeting with me today. I know it's obviously a busy time at the H, getting that program going, your first summer with the program. How's it been so far, being back in that head coaching role, especially at the H?
It's been really it's just been a little bit different, but it's been really good, and it really lies in the numbers. We probably have about 35 kids out in the summer playing in June, which is a good number because you're dealing with other sports going on too, so kids are coming and going. But we have a good base. We do our workouts of about 30 kids, and then we'll do youth skid. One of the things I'm trying to do is kind of branch the program together between the younger kids, and the high school kids. And so today we'll probably have 70 kids in that gym. And for June, that's not bad. So it's been good so far.
Absolutely. Good to hear. So you had 23 seasons under your belt as a head coach. Then you went into the assistant's role. What made you want to get back into that head role?
Yeah, that's a good question. I ask myself sometimes that, and I probably will. But in all honesty, I did something for 23 years, and I was in two different places, and I enjoyed it. But health-wise, it was best I kind of step away because, when you're an assistant, your coaching is pretty much while you're there. If practice starts at 2 and you're done at 4, you're probably rolling in about 1:45, and you're done at 4:15. When you're a head coach, it's just so much more involved, on the court, off the court, probably more now than ever before, dealing with social media and, building and promoting your program and creating cultures. So I think I just needed some time away from all that because I was just beat down physically. And to be honest with you, I was still teaching, but since I retired from teaching and I've had more free time, and I probably have got that energy back. And then I was at 3 really good programs, being at Kirkwood, and I was at Howell for a couple of years with Morgan. And then I was also last year at Fort Zumwalt South. So I was under really good coaches who probably motivated me to want to get back, basically get back with some skin in the game, I guess I should say.
Awesome. So the program, unfortunately, has only had 15 wins over the past 2 seasons. What is, in your opinion, the biggest thing that could really help that turn around?
You mean turning it around as far as kind of getting it back on track?
Yeah, like what is easy, maybe not, I shouldn't say easy way, but one of the biggest things that the Howell's girls basketball program needed to maybe get back, instead of 15 wins in 2 years, to maybe 15 wins a season?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously you got to have the talent, but I will say this: if you look at, and you did their games last year, they were probably, you could argue, except for the across the river with Incarnate and St. Joe's, they were probably in the toughest conference in one of the toughest conferences in the state. I mean, you're in there with Howell Central, and you're in there with Troy, and you're in there with Holt. I mean, people that all won their districts. Fort Zumwalt West is a quality team. And you're not just playing them once, you're playing them twice. So I think, number one, I think the wins were deceiving last year because I think that if you look at a lot of the games you did, they were in the games, they just didn't finish them. So I don't think it was I thought Andrew did a nice job, and I don't think that it was as downtrodden as people laid it out. I just think they got hit by COVID pretty good last year too. So, my gosh, when you're going okay and you're playing well, and then you lose some players during the season, and then you're hitting COVID, and then you're playing that schedule, I just think there's a lot of intangibles. So, number one, I don't think it was that bad last year. But on the flip side is you're right. You got to do more than 115 in 2 years. So, I think the number one thing we're trying to do is build numbers in the program. Where there's numbers, where there's volume, there's quantity. And when there's quantity, you find more quality. So we're trying to get more kids in the program. This freshman class coming in is really, really, really talented. And I think that's the number one energy thing we're basing it off of. And I think there's some good seniors coming back. So I think it's just basically trying to rebuild some confidence in the kids, but also making them accountable. You know, they have to be accountable for themselves, and that's why we had 28 kids in the weight room yesterday. That's a start. So culture. When you're trying to build culture, it's just what you do every day. So we're doing 20 days in June, and then we're going to take a break, and then I'm going to know how dedicated this group is probably when we start back up our weightlifting, how many kids come back, and then I'll have a good feel, because if the commitment's there, I think the talent's there. But that's one of the things we're trying to find out right now, if that all makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. In your 23 years before and currently now here in 2021, what is the biggest difference between like now and then, and say like the world, I guess? Obviously,
Sure.
COVID made a huge thing, and that's probably the biggest. I've never seen anything like that where teams were shut down for weeks after weeks. But between now and when you were coaching before, what's the biggest difference in your eyes in, say, coaching the game?
Sure, sure. Well, I think last year you just throw it out. No people just made their own rules. Nobody knew what was going on, and But I will say this much, and I've had this conversation. I'm a pretty brutally honest guy, by the way, so I'm not Mr. Cliche. But the biggest difference between now and even 10 years ago, not even 20 years ago, not even 7 years ago, these kids are, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but they're so wired into technology now, that we're asking them to do something that really, to be honest with you, we use technology in this field, but it's still old fashioned sports. And I think the biggest thing isn't on the court. The game's the same. The baskets are the same. The dimensions are the same. But the outside interference is a lot different. These kids are wired into technology. They're not even off the court. They're on their phones. And if they're not if they're not checking their text, they're on their social media. They're trying to figure out their next TikTok dance with their teammates and everything. And that's great. But also the downside is when things aren't going well during the season, let's just put it this way. There's a lot of there can be a lot of interference outside, if that makes sense. It's a lot harder to not only create team chemistry and unity, but to keep it. Because maybe the two kids that aren't playing a lot, or the three kids, they got people on their Twitter, they got people on their DMs. Oh, I think you should play more. And and then that stuff can filter back into your season. Any coach will tell you, and I coached football for 30 years. Any coach will be lying if he says that's not an issue right now, because it's not really what you're doing within the framework of the team. It's keeping all the outside interference so you can build something and unify it and keep it going in the same direction, even when things aren't going well. And so that to me is a major challenge versus 10, 12 years ago, when you didn't have all the social media, so you could control the controllables a little bit more when things will go down. So everybody's going to take a beating at times. That to me is the biggest difference.
Gotcha. Awesome. So Sean gave me like the insight how he like approached you and like kind of said, hey, there's going to be a girls basketball position opening. When he first mentioned, that there was an opportunity for you to get back in that head role, what was your initial reaction? And, you said to Greg Upton at the Post-Dispatch, you were looking for the right place at the right time. What made the H the right place at the right time?
That's a good question. When he originally came to him, I made sure he had the right number one, because I'm not sure you want to talk to me. So I've been out of it for a little bit on that side. I think the fact that I coached there before. Okay, so I already knew what Mr. Irwin's about, and Mr. Irwin is about excellence. He's about running a quality program, but also celebrating your successes on and off the court. He believes in a holistic program in more than just what you do on the court. One of the things that intrigued me that I've really not done a very good job of in the past, and I have no problem saying this, is and this at Howell, is it's community based. And he wants your team to be more reflective and more interacting within the community. And I've really, and even at Marquette, I probably didn't do a good a job as I could have. At Fox, it was probably tough to do. So I kind of like the challenge of not only becoming a head coach, but going back and doing something, improving on something that I probably have not done well on. And one of the number one things I've already focused on is doing a better job of getting out what we're doing already to the public and trying to buy some community buy-in. Uh, and I got great assistants that are really helping me out because I'm no young chicken. So I'm the one who has my grandkid rechannel my TV, So, but I do understand the importance of that now. So that was number one, the chance to work for Mr. Irwin and knowing what he wanted. Number two, man, Howell is just a great place facility wise. If you need a gym, you got it. They got 2 gyms. One could be the size of 2 or 3. Everything you need resource wise is there. I mean, I just haven't heard the word no yet. If I've asked for something, I'm sure I'm going to hear it. But I'm going to keep asking if it's in the best interest of the program. So I think this is my last shot. Like when I'm done here, I'm done coaching, head coaching for good. And I'll be good with that, however long it is. But when you put A, B, and C together and they all equal what you want, and they're not differentiating from one another. So when you look at facilities and you look at community and you look at talent, this 9th grade coming in and the kids already in the program, and you look for the support of the administration, the principal of the school, Mr. Wedlock, is Dr. Wedlock, is I was over him at Marquette. He was an assistant principal. Mr. Schultz, the assistant principal, was also an assistant principal at Marquette. So I've already had connections. So the familiarity and the facilities and the community, why not? I mean, if you're going to go back and do this one last time, there's no better place to go than Howell. At least, and I live out here, but that really, heck, I drove the Fox every day from here. So it really wasn't about the distance. It's about the opportunity.
Awesome. Well, that's all I have, Coach Cleer. Thank you for meeting with me. I look forward to winter time. It's probably, even though it gets a little cold around here, it's the most exciting time of the year. That's by far. So thank you, Coach Cleer.
I appreciate for you reaching out to me, and I'll really look forward to meeting you in person.
Absolutely. Coach Cleer, thanks again. We'll see you next time.